You're on Matt Zone HD Sportsnet, presented by the JMU Alumni Association. I'm joined by men's head soccer coach Tom Martin. Coach, 0-0 draw against Furman, a tough 2-1 loss against Virginia. What's going through your mind after these two games?
A lot of things, but Furman was interesting. A top 25 team on the road. We played very well. Tie was probably a just result. Neither team could say they deserve to win, but we'll take it. On the road is the hardest thing to do in college soccer is to get a result, in my opinion. And there's so much parity and long trip, but a just result, a good result. Virginia, they were number 2 in the country last week. Again, we're playing them on the road. They don't do too much in the way of traveling, especially out of conference games. And I've got nothing but good things to say about our kids. We take a lot of positives from that game. We were ahead for a long stretch. We didn't manage the game as well as we would have liked to at the end. But all credit to Virginia. It's Virginia. When you're number 2 in the country, it's for a reason. And the quality of their players, I think, came through in the end of the day and found a way to score with less than 2 minutes left to tie the game. But we have to take the positives from the game. Jamal scored maybe the goal of the year for us, maybe the goal for a couple years for us, to put us ahead. And the kids stuck to the game plan. We defended a little bit deeper. We got numbers behind the ball. And at the end of the day, I think the only difference between getting a win or a loss in that game was we had some clear-cut chances to score and didn't score. But Virginia's always the pinnacle. That's what you want to play those teams and you measure yourself against. And they've been the pinnacle for 30 to 35 years, and facility-wise, player-wise, staff-wise. And I say that all in a complimentary way. But it turns out to be kind of prophetic, what we thought at the beginning, that this will maybe be the toughest schedule we've had in history. And as it's unfolding, it's exactly that. but in the short term, it gives us a great barometer where we are, what we have to work on to get better as a team and as individuals, and sets the seeds for the future too, which is very good. So we get long-term and short-term gains out of that.
At this point in the year, non-conference has just ended. You're 4-4-2 against your 3 nationally ranked opponents. Obviously, the tough loss to Virginia. You tied the other 2. Did you think at this point in the year you'd be sitting here having this much success, for lack of a better word?
It's a difficult question. If somebody would have said we'd be this competitive and this successful, I'd have said, don't put your money on it, but we'll take it without question. We got off to a slow start, but we had 4 really top teams in a row. When you look at West Virginia, Furman, Virginia, it just... And Delaware's been as high as 11th, and Wilmington just beat North Carolina. They'll be in the top 20. They are in everybody's poll, and I think it's great. And I'm not saying it's great because it's my final season. But these are the teams that people want to play, and our kids would without question want to go that direction. And it's not to knock any other teams across the country, but the way it's just unfolded, we've got that brutal schedule that we wanted, and now we just have to get ourselves healthy and rebound from the Virginia game and put our best game on the field and see where we go.
You mentioned the brutal schedule. Obviously, it doesn't get any easier next Wednesday. Conference starts against Delaware. Like you said, they've been as high as number 11. Following game, back at home finally, against UNCW. Your thoughts on these 2 games going forward?
Well, going into those games, we knew it would be tough with a lot of hours on the bus and a lot of games on the road. But that's college soccer. To play the right people, you have to make that commitment. We basically have a 16-hour bus odyssey to Furman, and I thought that the kids handled it really, really well. And it's not just the game in those situations; it's the travel. When you play on a weekday night, it's very difficult because you lose a lot of academic time, and the fatigue that sets in is not just from the playing; it's from being on the bus. It's from being in an interrupted travel schedule, and that's hard. And as a result, right now, at the point where we are in the schedule, we break the season up into 3 phases. There's a preseason where you actually overtrain the kids through no choice of your own, but you have to find out what you have and how kids bond and how the camaraderie comes together and how your team starts to formulate itself. Then you have the non-conference schedule, which we finished. And fortunately for us right now, this is the one time in a long time we don't have a weekend game, which is great because we can kind of regroup, reassess ourselves, try to get healthy, try to get people back, give some players a time to catch up on their fitness work, give some players a time to take maybe a longer break and not go through full practices to try to recover and regenerate. And that in itself is maybe the hardest thing to manage in college soccer. Everywhere else across the globe, people are playing mostly one game a week with a pretty even roster of 20 to 30 players. College soccer doesn't operate like that. You get a lot of back-to-back games, a lot of games in a short window. So trying to manage that recovery, fatigue, regeneration equation is really, really difficult. And today, just for instance, today we practiced in a football stadium. We didn't want a long practice. We did most of it without the ball, and it was exactly that, a light recovery practice for some players, a little bit of fitness training for other players to try to get guys to catch up and guys coming back from injuries. And it was very enjoyable. I mean, it was just we try to refresh a little bit at certain times in the season physically, but more than that mentally. And we accomplished exactly what we wanted to. Now tomorrow we'll go back to work and we'll train hard for 2 days, take a day off, and very rarely do you get to follow that kind of schedule, but we'll try to benefit from it.
Long extended break continues well through the weekend. Next time JMU plays is next Wednesday night against Delaware on the road. The Dukes return home Saturday night against UNCW. Coach, thanks so much for joining us.
Always a pleasure.